Every crypto exchange you've ever used told you the same thing. Your funds are safe. Withdraw anytime. Here's what 400,000 people in Turkey discovered about that promise in a single morning. April 20th, 2021, Istanbul Airport. A 27-year-old walks through passport control, carrying only a backpack. No alarms, no chase. No one stopped him. Just a backpack. Inside it, a flash drive. On that flash drive, $2 billion. Not his. Behind him, 400,000 people who couldn't access their money. He was already gone. Before we go further, a note on the numbers in this story. Most versions report a clean figure, $2 billion stolen, gone. That number is not what prosecutors proved in court. Turkish prosecutors officially documented 356 million liras, roughly $13 million, as the legally established loss. Blockchain analysts at Witstream and Chainalysis traced a very different number. 2.6 billion in moved funds. The gap between those two figures is not a typo. It is the gap between what a legal system can prove and what actually happened. That gap is the real story. This didn't look like a scam. It had celebrity endorsements. It had offices in Istanbul's business district. It had government recognition. To 400,000 people, most of them ordinary Turks who'd already watched their savings lose half their value, Thodex wasn't a gamble. It was the most rational financial decision available. And that's exactly what made it dangerous. To understand what Faruk Fatih Özer built, you need to understand what Turkey was living through. Between 2017 and 2021, the Turkish lira lost nearly half its value. Into that environment walked a 23-year-old from Istanbul who understood something that no banker, no regulator, and no politician seemed to grasp. When people lose faith in the system, they don't stop trusting. They just trust something else. With around $11,000 raised with his two brothers, Özer launched a small crypto exchange called Coinex in 2017. By 2019, it had been rebranded Thodex, and Faruk Fatih Özer had become the face of Turkish crypto. He described himself, publicly, as Turkey's Elon Musk. Remember that. It comes back. He didn't just advertise, he engineered legitimacy. Television campaigns, YouTube, Instagram. He installed Turkey's first Bitcoin ATMs on the street, in cash, trading competitions, giveaways, iPhones, MacBooks, one Porsche. And behind all of it, he cultivated relationships with prominent figures inside Turkey's political establishment. Here's what it bought him. 3 years of growth with almost no meaningful oversight. Here's what those 400,000 people didn't know. A legitimate exchange holds your funds in cold storage, segregated from operations, accessible on demand. Thodex didn't do that. Customer deposits were commingled with operating funds, which means Özer had access to your money, all of it, at all times. Between August 2020 and February 2021, while Thodex was publicly growing, while the ads were running, while users were depositing their savings, Özer had quietly begun transferring 5,000 Bitcoin worth over $125 million to a US exchange, in small, consistent batches, designed not to trigger alerts. Additional funds moved through shell companies in Turkey, Cyprus, and Albania, controlled by his own relatives. This was not a rogue founder acting alone. This was a coordinated, family-level operation. The exits were always locked. The users just hadn't tried the door yet. Then, in April 2021, 3 things happened at once. First, Dogecoin went viral. Elon Musk was tweeting about it. Second, on April 16th, Turkey's central bank announced a ban on crypto payments, effective April 30th. Every Turkish crypto holder wanted their money out immediately. Third, Özer moved. On April 17th, 1 day after the ban, Thodex launched a new promotion. Dogecoin at a 30% discount, 20 cents instead of 29. To panicking users, this looked like a gift. $500 million in Dogecoin sold in a single day. 1.7 billion in total trading volume, the highest in Thodex history. It was also its last. Now look at that sequence again, slowly. August 2020, funds begin moving to a US exchange in small batches. February 2021, transfers complete. April 16th, Central Bank announces the ban. April 17th, Dogecoin discount launched. 500 million extracted in a single day, and withdrawals quietly freeze. April 20th, Özer boards a plane. That is not a man reacting to bad news. That is a man who had already finished. The central bank ban wasn't the cause of the collapse, it was the cover for it. The Dogecoin discount wasn't generosity, it was the final withdrawal. The site posts a maintenance notice. No timeline, no details, no access. Inside the company, and Thodex posted one final public statement. We are negotiating with a foreign investor. Faruk will return in a few days. He did not return in a few days. 400,000 people, zero access, one backpack. Turkish prosecutors would later officially recognize 2,027 victims in the legal case. There were 400,000. The other 397,973 had no legal standing, no case, no recourse. The court gave 2,027 people justice. It gave 397,973 people nothing. Now here's what was happening. What Özer told the court, the collapse was caused by hackers and market instability. What prosecutors legally proved, 356 million Turkish liras, approximately $13 million. What blockchain analysts traced, 2.6 billion. That gap is $2.587 billion. It is still missing. The system warned people not to trust it. The system still failed them. Interpol issued a red notice, Turkish prosecutors filed charges, and Özer disappeared into Albania. For over a year, he lived in the coastal town of Vlor, a quiet Adriatic port city. He paid for everything in cash, sent by relatives, no digital footprint, no credit cards, no trace. In August 2022, Albanian police received a tip about a black BMW parked outside a modest house on a narrow residential street. They didn't move immediately. They watched. They waited. On August 30th, 2022, Özer walked out the front door. Daylight. An ordinary morning, a man who thought he had disappeared. He was arrested immediately. He resisted extradition for months. In spring 2023, he was returned to Istanbul in handcuffs. On September 7th, 2023, the court delivered its verdict. Faruk Fatih Özer, guilty of aggravated fraud, money laundering, and leading a criminal organization. Sentence: 11,196 years in prison. Under Turkish law, fraud sentences are applied per victim, one count per person. With 2,027 officially recognized victims, the sentences stack mathematically. A fine of approximately $5 million was also imposed. 0.2% of the blockchain traced losses. Prosecutors had originally asked for 40,562 years. The court gave him less than a third, and across every platform, every comment section, every thread, the reaction was not relief. It was one question, repeated everywhere, by everyone. Where is the $2 billion? Nobody answered. On November 1st, 2025, Faruk Fatih Özer was found dead in his prison cell in Tekirdağ, Turkey. Authorities investigated. Officials focused on the possibility of suicide. He had served less than 2 years of 11,196. The moment the news broke, the internet split in two. Half said, "The money is gone forever." The other half said, "Did he fake it?" That second reaction is worth sitting with. Not because it's likely true, but because its existence tells you something about how completely the story failed to resolve. The $2.6 billion sits on wallets that only Özer could access. Whether he arranged that inaccessibility deliberately, nobody knows. The only person who knew where the money was is gone. Thodex was not an anomaly, it was a prototype. It proved that when people are desperate enough, trust is not earned, it is engineered. Through marketing, through endorsements, through the appearance of infrastructure, through political proximity that silences the people who are supposed to ask questions. It proved that frictionless entry and controlled exits can coexist inside a platform that looks completely legitimate until the moment too many people try to leave at once. It proved that by the time a court delivers a verdict, the money is gone, the founder is dead, and most victims will never see a dollar returned. The regulators were too slow. The influencers took the payment. The platform grew faster than any oversight could follow. And then it collapsed. And then the industry grew. And then it happened again, somewhere else. The real question is not what happened to Thodex. The real question is what you are looking at right now. Any platform, any exchange, any app with your money in it, ask one thing. If I tried to withdraw everything today, right now, would I be able to? Not tomorrow, not after a support ticket, not after a security review, now. Because the difference between a legitimate platform and Thodex is not the branding, it is not the celebrity endorsements, it is not the government registration, it is not the political connections. It is one thing: whether the exits are actually open. You won't know until you try to leave. I have been tracking 3 more platforms that show the same structural architecture as Thodex. Same entry mechanics, same liquidity design, same withdrawal controls. Different names, different countries, different founders. Same system. That is the next video.